How could they do what they did? They were so obviously wrong. The soldiers had come to them, these Jewish religious leaders, the soldiers who had been at the tomb of Jesus, and they told the leaders everything that had happened. They told them about the earthquake, and they fainted at the sight of the angel. And, well, what are we going to do about this? Like, now we're in trouble. The tomb is open, the body is gone. And the religious leaders who had put those soldiers in place said, here's what you should do. You should go and say, Jesus' disciples came during the night and stole him away while we were asleep. Now, everybody knew this was a lie. How can you do that? How can you just flat out lie when you know that something amazing happened? Well, this wasn't completely out of the Jewish religious leaders' rule book. They had come face to face with the resurrection of Lazarus not too long before this, and what was their solution to that? Oh no, now we've got two people to kill, Jesus and Lazarus. Right? So in all of these cases, it seems like this unbelief was blind. It was taking a very obvious and even known to those who are doing it stand against what is clearly true. And there might be something inside of each of us that watches that happen and says, I don't know how they could have done that. And yet that's exactly how our own sinful flesh works too, doesn't it? It gets us to love to do things that in retrospect we know are definitely the wrong thing. Where you can wake up in the morning having done something the day before that you know now wasn't right, and you thought it would bring you happiness, you thought it would bring you some kind of joy that hangs on, and now you look back on it and you realize you've only caused more trouble, life is more complicated, whatever the consequence is. Even we can look back at times on sin and kick ourselves for doing it. And so the question is, why do we feel that it's so right when in retrospect even we realize it is so wrong? Our flesh lives in rebellion. It's not a question of whether it knows that what it's doing is wrong or not. It hates whatever God says. And it is eager to do the opposite. It doesn't care if it doesn't make sense. This is how wicked our flesh is. And for those who were reacting to the soldiers many years ago, that's all that they had inside of them. They had a sinful flesh that was just obstinate. What do we as Christians do when we see that sinful flesh bringing out that obstinacy and we hate it? Well, one thing that we do is we say to the Lord, I have been foolish. And what's amazing, of course, is that the Lord is slow to anger. His fuse, which gets lit by our sin, should just blow up and give us no hope, but it burns long. And as it burns long, we have this wonderful time in our lives for repentance, to see that our sin is horrific, to acknowledge to God, I've done something that I shouldn't have done. And do you know what the Lord does? He comes to you and says, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves. But if we confess our sin, He's faithful and just and will forgive us our sin and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. He takes that burning fuse and He pinches it. He snuffs it out, which gives you and me peace. And it prepares us for the next time our sinful flesh is getting close to persuading us that this makes a ton of sense. Yeah, just tell people that He really didn't rise. Lie. Tell them you fell asleep. When our flesh plays whatever trick it tries to play on us, you say to that flesh, no, this is crazy. Jesus came to life, or this sin that you're suggesting to me is only going to lead to worse ends. I trust the Lord. I trust His will for my life. And yes, I am so thankful that Jesus rose from the dead to prove that He had defeated the guilt of my sin. I am glad that the lie of the soldiers did not make its way to my heart. may the lie of our sinful flesh be blocked off from worming its way into our heart as well.